So 2024 was, by all accounts, a challenging year for A.S.K. Volumes of lending were solid, but not as busy as we'd like. We've worked hard to manage the loan book. Some of the positions are more challenging than others, but the maximum of stay alive to 25 is interesting because we're now in 2025 and things have definitely improved. I think we've written nearly 200 million in loans and the business seems to be in a really good place. Markets are still very, very hard to read. Tariffs are certainly causing a bit of uncertainty, a lot of volatility and some panic in the investor markets. You're going to see interest rates continue to fall. I think there's now more belief that rates are on their way back to the mid threes. Some people think that will happen quicker than others. My sense is that the MPC wants to really get a handle on inflation and make sure it's not coming back. So we might see 1 or 2 quarter points during the second half of this year. But I think by the end of 2026, we'll be in the mid threes. And I think that differential between interest rates and real estate yields would have grown to a position where actually commercial and residential real estate starts to become an attractive asset class again for long-term investors. Dynamics are starting to change, not as quickly as a lot of investors would like to get them out of trouble, but we've managed the bottom of the cycle. And I think as government yields come down, investors, especially private investors, will start to need to think about coming out of the gilt positions that they've adopted over the last 2 years and start thinking about other ways to invest their capital. Equity markets are very unpredictable. So what we do, real estate debt via a syndicated bond product, gives you relatively predictable returns in a time where it's very hard to underwrite other asset classes. Size of loans we're doing is also increasing with the quality of sponsor that we're taking on. And markets have been rebased, which means you're getting a bit more visibility into what things are worth again. So you can size your risk appropriately. There's no doubt that there's still major structural issues in investing in UK real estate. The Building Safety Act has become a real issue for anyone looking to build tall buildings or even refurbish tall buildings. It slowed any planning permissions coming forward. There's no visibility about when they're going to get approval. So that will tighten supply, which means prices will stay firm. And so if you can produce some good residential product, for example, then markets should start to be in your favour and we can lend into those markets. I'd say there's cautious optimism, but the UK itself has some issues. There's a lot of negative sentiment. There's a lot of kind of negativity. But then, we've still got a very good, stable government, even though it might not be doing the things we want it to do. We've got good rule of law. We've got a great time zone. Everyone moans about the weather, but actually the climate is pretty benign in compared to some parts of Central and Southern Europe. We've seen what's happened in California. We're going to have global warming migration to this country. So there's no doubt that as a small landmass, we're always going to have a lot of people, and that's going to create pent-up demand for the built environment. But I think we're going through a tough time. I think the world is going through a very tough time. We've got India and Pakistan, which is obviously very scary. Russia and Ukraine, the Middle East. There seems to be, tumultuous happenings all over the globe. So where does money go? We've seen the gold price being very strong, which would make a lot of sense. But I think really good real estate, especially in London, the southeast, is a bit of a wealth store. It's not dissimilar to gold, and money's going to flow back into London. I think yields that you can achieve in the UK if you're an offshore investor have come down because of changes to tax. But then if you look at what's going on in some of the more expensive cities in the US, like Miami, New York, London's starting to look relatively good value to buy a property and live again because those US cities have got so expensive. And as much as we're seeing a lot of people leave the UK and London, there are some people returning and some people coming that haven't lived here before. a lot of people wanting to get away from, Trump and his, should I say, well, dare I say, right-wing policies. So it's a very, very hard market to read. It's going to be, a lot more challenging. But challenges are what we thrive on. So we're looking forward to the second half of the year, and maybe by 2026 things have definitely started to properly turn a corner. We're seeing more activity. We're seeing more capital flows into the UK.